Good morning. Sorry, a little bit late getting in here this morning, trying to get a couple of things done. It is cool. Had a good chance to see a couple of our employees today from Pensacola Energy down in the lobby downstairs. I told them this is a good Pensacola Energy morning. We need a lot of heat on, so definitely somebody left the AC on over the weekend. It got cold, but we've had a good weekend. Had a lot of things happening in the community. A couple of these things I want to go over. Certainly Veterans Day was Friday. I know it was a great day. I'm sorry I was leaving the area that day and going to Oxford, but I'm sure they had it sounded like the festival with the parade and all the events at the Veterans Park were great. We were able to have a proclamation there, and I think Pensacola always looks its best when we celebrate our military. Sort of going right into that, the Blue Angels homecoming show. Certainly, I think over the weekend I saw lots of pictures. It looked like it turned out to be sunny weather over the weekend. A great day Friday and Saturday for having the air show. I will say, at least I did get to see my last air show Thursday from the balcony here. Able to get a couple of shots of the planes coming over. Even saw Fat Albert. I commented that it really does look like, as it flies, the big plane, little plane from all of us who played Atari. Remember that from way back in combat days. But anyways, it was always impressive to see Fat Albert fly, and then the diamond formation of the Blue Angels fly over the city of Pensacola. It always is a great thing to see. And I was just glad to have a chance to see one more of those before I left from the balcony upstairs. So great day for us. We certainly very much appreciate what the U.S. Navy, what our veterans mean to our community, and we're very thankful for them and all of their service. And again, I think Pensacola always looks its best when we celebrate the military and what it means for us here in this community. We also have had some good things happening elsewise, along with the Blue Angels show, sort of brackets toward the end of the Foo Fest, which started the first of the month. We had the great Gulf Coast Arts Festival, and we have several events that are going on. Certainly Bubble Alley, which will stay until the new year as long as it remains in good condition, has been a great addition to the community. We've had a chance to take some pictures there. Casey took my pictures there, going back over there. I've seen tons of families enjoying it. It's been a great thing, drawing and attracting people. The things that we've talked about, creating vibrancy in our community. Foo Festival has been an incredible over the number of years. I was very glad to have been on the county commission when we started funding that event. I always tell the story that I was very skeptical. The only reason I did it is because I knew David Baer, and I trusted him that he could put something together. And even I've been amazed at what he's been able to put together and what that team has. Certainly Maria Goldberg and her team and everybody associated with Foo Fest, it's just been amazing to see what they've done. We were able to give a key to the city to Lewis Barrett, the event they had at the art museum, which was focusing on modern art, and it was great to have in our community. Certainly to see a community our size have that kind of exposure for art and culture and be able to show it off in so many different ways. It is a great thing for our community, and so very excited about what it does. It does wrap up today. But it has been another great event, and we're certainly very proud of what Foo Fest means and what arts and culture mean, and to our tourism that it creates in the city of Pensacola. So we're very happy about that. Also this past week, we kicked off our youth council in this very room. We had, I believe, I thought I saw Kelsey or Lawrence. I think we had about 29 students. I think about 8 of them were repeat students that were probably juniors that became seniors and stayed with the program. So we had 21 new students from really across the city in many different ways, different high schools. It was great to have them in here and going over, talking to them about leadership, opportunities that they're going to see about local government, and it was excited to see them participating. I think this has been an amazing program. This is our 3rd year of the Youth Council, but only our 2nd really in person. Our first one we were able to do some successful things, but it was totally virtual during the COVID time. We now have had last year and now this year will be our third session of youth council, and I think they've done an incredible job. Kelsey and Lawrence have done a great job with that. We've also managed to name some conference rooms at the City Hall. We've named them after our former mayors. We've so far done Mayor John Fogg, Mayor Jerry Maygarden, and Mayor Ashton Hayward, and we will be doing Mayor Mike Wiggins this week. So again, we've had a chance to name some of our conference rooms, so we won't have to say 6th floor conference room anymore or 3rd floor conference room. We'll be actually able to give a name just like we do for Wibbs or Hagler Mason. So it had been a while. I think it had been almost 40 years since we had named a room after somebody here. So I thought it was time that we did that, and I was glad we were able to recognize some great leaders, great mayors of our community. So it was good. And a couple of things I did not know while we did that. I did not know that Jerry Maygarden had actually served as a council member and mayor at the same time. So you talk about a constitutional chaos in the current charter, but Jerry Maygarden did do that, hold both offices, and then also did not know that John Fogg is the longest standing mayor in the city of Pensacola. So did not know that, and obviously now with term limits, he will at least until something changes in the charter, he will be the longest serving mayor for some time. But it was good to see he and Pat and them be here, and then it was good certainly to see Ashton and Ann and have them in for their naming as well. We're going to be doing some more dedications this week. Like I said, we're going to be doing the Ronald Townsend tennis courts. We're recognizing a great council member. This will happen on November 15th at Armstrong Park. The City of Pensacola invites the public to a dedication ceremony for Ronald Townsend tennis courts at Armstrong Park tomorrow, Tuesday, November 15th at 2 o'clock. Tennis courts will be renamed for the former City Councilman Ronald Townsend, who served the District 7 City Council member for 14 years. The dedication will take place at the tennis courts there, and that's at Armstrong Park. And we will look forward to seeing you there at 300 West Lakeview. So we are excited about that as well. It would be great. I mean, for me, it's going to be great. One, I certainly had a chance to serve a number of those years with Ronald Townsend when I was a county commissioner, and he was a council member. Two, that park certainly means a lot to me and my family. Armstrong Park was where my father played baseball in Little League. Back then you played for the park team, and so he was at Armstrong Park right there in North Hill. So it'll be exciting for me to be there, to be able to dedicate that and be a part of that. So very excited about doing that and doing that on Tuesday. The public also is invited to a meeting tonight, tomorrow night, Carpenter's Creek and Bayou Tahar open house. It is at November 15th, which is tomorrow night. The public is invited to learn about the future of Carpenter's Creek and Bayou Tahar watershed management plan during our open house event tomorrow, Tuesday, November 5th at 5:30 at the Bayview Community Center located at 2000 East Lloyd Street. The open house will showcase the final watershed management plan, which outlines specific improvements, policy changes, and benchmarks to restore Carpenter's Creek and the Bayou Tahar watershed. So we certainly are excited about that. We hope you will come be a part of that. The city reaches a resolution to preserve the Spring Street Heritage Oak. I think you probably saw that on Friday. We were excited, or Thursday I think it went out. We are excited to announce that the City of Pensacola has reached an agreement with the property owners at 605 North Spring Street to preserve a heritage oak, a live oak tree that the city has sought to protect since 2019. The declaratory judgment action filed by the City of Pensacola concerning the Spring Street oak tree was resolved through an agreement with the property owners. The Vickeries, who own the subject property in North Hill Preservation District, have agreed to preserve the live oak found in the northwest corner of their lot in consideration for the city's agreement to reimburse for their attorney's fees. But we're very glad that it ended in a settlement, and a settlement that will keep the tree there. So we're very excited to see that happen. Hurricane Sally repairs completed at Plaza de Luna and Comedencia Slip. As a reminder, Plaza de Luna is now reopened to the public, and after being closed for a while, we've completed the repairs to the areas of the plaza that were significantly damaged by Hurricane Sally. The work included repairs to the brick walkway, new gates, handrails, repairs, new concrete sidewalk, new park benches, trash receptacles, and landscaping has been restored. Repairs were also completed to the splash pad, but is not expected to open until the spring of 2023, since the splash pad operates seasonally. Hurricane Sally repairs have also been completed at Commandant City Slip, including repairs to the seawall, sidewalks, and more. We appreciate your patience and staff through the FEMA process required to move this project forward. One of those, David, that I did not see on here, part of that too, is we have created a new pump house. We've taken the pumps for the splash pad and the fountain and taken them out of the ground so they don't keep getting ruined. Everybody keeps asking why is the fountain out, and more often than not, it's because of the way the original pumps were put in underground. Certainly, we have a hurricane. The salt water eats up all the equipment, and they're basically ruined. So now we have them where they are now up above. They're in a building above ground, and they're actually raised. It's the one next to just to the south of the old where the Chat and Chew was. We built a building that kind of looks almost the same, but that is our new pump house, and all of our equipment is raised inside there, so to survive any future storms, so that we won't have to restart on those equipments again. So very appreciative to Public Works, what they did to make that happen and create something I think is going to be much better and much more sustainable for the community going forward. City also completes the Burgess Road Sidewalk and Drainage Improvement Project. The City of Pensacola is excited to announce substantial completion of the Burgess Road Sidewalk and Drainage Improvement, and which will add new sidewalks along the roadway to better connect the neighborhood and provide enhanced safety for pedestrians. The project was a partnership between the City of Pensacola and Escambia County. Significant drainage improvements were also completed in the area through the project, with the addition of new gutters, curbs, and driveway aprons. Burgess Road has also been repaved from Joy Street to Lanier. The contractor is actively addressing a few outstanding work items on the site, including planting a few trees in Parker Circle. The project is slated to be fully completed by the end of November of 2022, but we certainly had wanted to at least make that announcement. Again, we're still dealing with some punch list items in Parker Circle, but our whole goal, obviously, it was our laydown yard, and we're trying to restore it to as good or better condition than it was when we started this project. Certainly, if you drive down Burgess Road and look at the new improvements, it's very, and again, it's not just in the city section, it's also in the county section. Really appreciate working with Escambia County, that partnership as well. I will say, while it was in both jurisdictions, I see Brad Highnote in the back, and he was the overall project manager of it. It was a city managed project, so very much appreciate, Brad, your work and your team's work to get that done. I think it's an awesome asset for our people living up there, and really improves the quality of life in that area for those people, so very happy about that. Lastly, I'm supposed to get on the phone with Jenny Grove after this press conference to finally discuss what we're doing going forward. I do know at some point in the December meeting, they will be bringing forward an idea that we've been working for them a long time, trying to figure out if there's an opportunity to do some affordable housing on their on the campus, what will be the former campus when Baptist Hospital moves from that area to its new campus. Obviously, we've talked about these things for probably 10 months, and so we've talked a little bit about that. I do think at some point we will be pursuing something that the city will be involved in helping with. I just don't have all the details at this moment, and hope to be in conversation with her after this meeting. But I do think there will be something that we will be doing with Baptist Hospital to again create some affordable housing. Last, I simply wanted to take a chance to, this is my last press conference. Well, I will be here next Monday. I will primarily turn it over to DC and allow him to really go through most of the things, as he will be obviously definitely taking over for the remainder of the week next Tuesday. But there are a couple things that we are working through that I did just kind of want to go over some of the things that I think we've done. Also, I was going to say this week, I will be turning over a lot of things to him. He'll be running the executive call this week, obviously, as we plan for the next council meeting. He'll be the one that's going to be here at the next council meeting. He'll be leading the city at that point. So I was letting him work with the team. He's been participating with us. He's been on the calls really since the 1st of October or middle of September. So again, this will be allowing him to really kind of be the lead and begin to move forward as he makes that transition next Tuesday. For my part, I'm mostly looking back and just seeing a couple things and sort of what's happened. I do think there's some areas that we've done tremendous things in. I think one is certainly what we came in here to do was to change culture, really establish what was going to happen from the employee side, set together ground rules of employee handbook, all the things that we wanted to do, institute a new management tool that really focused on the employees and their engagement and their satisfaction. And I think it's been a tremendous success for us in what we've been able to do. And I think I'm excited about that can continue to be built on even after I leave. So I'm very excited about that, the things we were able to do. Really work to try to establish new relationships with council, even managed to get some things done, like actually getting the food trucks, even though as John knows, we actually had to kind of go the opposite to get them to put in a food truck ordinance, but we got it done fairly fast from when we wanted to do that, and we actually made that happen, one that makes sense that we can enforce. We've structured the team, and if I say there's anything I think that we did here that was the best, we put together that flow chart of who the team members are, many of them sitting out in the audience. I think that is the best thing that we did in the 4 years that I'm here. Was here. I think we made tremendous strides there. I think there's some other things when you look at where we are. I think Parks and Rec, when you look at the investment that we've made into Parks and Rec, and really we were very intentional in doing this across the city. And I think when you look at things, you look at the new establishment of the soccer fields and what that sport is growing and what that means with Pensacola now becoming the site of the SEC soccer tournament, Pensacola State College taking on a soccer program, what that means in us doing the things we did at Hitzman Park. But not only that, we were able to make tremendous improvements to Hitzman Park, added the dog park, added other things, changed the landscaping out, put in the traffic circle, and other things that led to on traffic calming for Langley. We're very excited about that. But I think you can go over and see what we did with the additions that we did in the park at Legion Field, and the improvements that we made at Legion Field were significant, putting in dog parks at Kiwanis, and really investing in our west side parks at the same time. We put in several new things, a field house, a bathroom, and some study. We bought a building that we allowed to do educational programming in at McGee Field. When you look at other things we've done, obviously we've moved forward stuff that finally we're hoping is going to get Roger Scott at least 12 new courts and hopefully something else. We're in the process of totally changing out Hunter Pool and getting that done, and should be finished up for next year's pool season. And then I think there's definitely work being done to then address items at Roger Scott Pool. And again, we've looked at things that we've taken on, that we've done, even looking at new amenities that we could do, like at the port, what we're talking about with pickleball and other indoor sports. So I think we made incredible strides at what we've done at Parks and Rec. When I look at also things like Bayview Center and finishing out the what we have there with the amenities with the community center and other things, we've made tremendous strides in 4 years at really investing in Parks and Rec, which I always say is the number two thing right behind public safety as to why people want to live in the city of Pensacola. I think when you look at our enterprise fund, our enterprise departments and funds, they have done incredibly well, almost all of them setting records for where they are. I think that's because we really were able to focus on a plan that really began to put all of them moving in the right direction. And I think we've seen that happen almost every one of them, between what's happening at the port and the new things. We went from being in the red, a number of years in the red, to turning around and putting us in the black, and really beginning to build off a niche that we believe will be so much more successful and compatible with what's going on in downtown Pensacola. When we look at the airport, it's record that it's happening. bringing on the customs to the small airport across the way, what that does for the potential airport expansion, and what we put plans in there. Obviously, we thought a couple of years ago we were going to do an expansion to the parking garage. We had to put that on hold, and then it turned out it was more than the parking lot. It's the whole terminal. So very excited what's happening there. Pensacola Energy, the new things that we've been able to do, agreements, been able to really finish the retrofit of all of that clay pipe infrastructure that we had downtown. We finished all that, putting all new pipes in downtown. Certainly worked with Gulf Power for them to put in all new electrical underground downtown. I guess now FP&L. So very excited about what that means for the future of the community. Certainly, we tackled a number of issues that will really increase vibrancy. One of those we talked about right there, but also what we were able to do with the improvements that are going to happen at Jefferson that I really think are going to spark not only the growth along Garden Street that we're going to see, tremendous growth, but really the opportunity to spread downtown, not just think of the downtown district being south of Garden, but really north of Garden, and create opportunities into the future for a whole new sort of hospitality and entertainment district. So again, those things were very exciting. So these are all some of the things that we did, but I think probably the one thing that most defined us was dealing with adversity. It would be an incredible accomplishment to accomplish everything I just mentioned and the other two things if you were in normal times, but nothing we did in 4 years was really normal. All of this was done in the backdrop of facing tremendous adversity and difficulty that happened, that didn't just challenge our region but our nation, but really the world, a worldwide pandemic. But on top of that, a number of issues dealing with social justice and also dealing with hurricane. We just talked to you about a few things that are going on from hurricanes, but we also talked to you about, there are other things that we made. Certainly, I think when you look at social justice and dealing with adversity, I don't think anybody in the 4 years I've been here has been through more adversity than the Pensacola Police Department. But I look at where they were and things happened in dealing with challenges in 2019 and where we are in 2022 and really becoming a respected entity within neighborhoods across the city and being able to be consistent and what that is across the city, and I think just speaks to where we are. I had a chance last night. I went to dinner and I saw three of our officers having dinner there at Nuke, so I went over and talked to them. Always the first thing I ask them is, how you like those new uniforms? They tell me, oh, it's so much better. So watch out, Delary, and we're probably going to still be able to get more people from the sheriff's department there. We're working on it because we're following you guys and making sure we get good, comfortable uniforms for our people to wear. We've really invested in those things. I look at what fire has done, talked about other public safety. I mean, what they've done in taking on challenges that they've had to deal with and turning out and becoming an ISO 1 and really an entity that really embraces those things and dealing with challenges. They were there on the front line for helping us during COVID. Again, all of this goes with many things, and again, sort of appropriate this year with all the little cooler weather. It's kind of funny. My lemon tree has produced earlier, but I tell the staff, I tell them, what does this mean, staff? Come on, answer it at one time. What does this mean?
Make lemonade.
If life gives you lemons, you got to make lemonade out of it. I mean, come on. I gave them all a lemon from my lemon tree. I will do the same here. No matter what you want this to be, if it's a tomato, it's not going to be a tomato or something else. It's going to be a lemon. But it has value, and you can create value out of it. You just got to do things a little bit differently. You got to think a little bit differently. And staff certainly knows, that's what I've preached to them a couple times. And just to do that, I've brought them some lemons from time to time and reminded them, hey, if life gives us lemons, we got to make lemonade out of it. So it's just some of the things that we've had to do in going through that adversity. Finally, I think of a story that just happened a couple of weeks ago, talking about the Bubble Alley. I I went out with Casey. We went to go take some pictures at Bubble Alley, and Casey will probably tell you that I'm always probably happiest when people don't know who I am. That's always probably a good thing, but inevitably sometimes I run into people and then they know who I am and they act a little bit differently. But but this gentleman that was taking pictures came up to me all of a sudden. He was taking pictures, stopped taking pictures, came up to me, and he said, "I just wanted to thank you." He said, "I haven't always agreed." I think he said a lot of his friends haven't very much agreed with me, but he goes, "I can't think of any elected official who has been more fair than you are." From my standpoint, I took that as the compliment of what we hope to do. Our whole goal is not to push any specific idea. It's try to deal with all citizens fairly and create an environment that is inclusive to all of our citizens and that tries to move us forward and achieve those common goals. It's the reason we haven't put certain initiatives or certain political agendas ahead of the success of the city. Our whole goal has been success for the city, and that's success for all 55,000 residents that live here. Certainly, you may have disagreed from time to time. I've talked about several times, our objective has never been to take a side. We argued for masks when we thought they were important. We argued to end the mask when we didn't think it was important. We embraced those things that we believed needed to be when they needed to be done for the right things that were for the entirety of the city. Again, these were things that we did, and I hope, if nothing else, when I leave office, that both from a staff perspective and a citizen perspective, we can try to do those things that, again, are the best for the community. And they may not create a certain political agenda in any way, but I remind you, we run totally nonpartisan here at the City of Pensacola, and our whole goal of that is to do what's right for citizens. And I think that's what we've tried to do, and we've tried to be fair and even in our application. But that's a little bit about us, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have as this, as I said, will really be kind of my last one. I'll be here for next week, but I'll turn it over to, I will absolutely turn it over to DC and let him begin to go. But I did want to say real quick, I remember we did these, the very first one, and Rick Allison kept saying, "Are you going to do this?" I said, "I'm going to do it, and I'll do it next week, and I'll do it the next week." And I remember we had a lot of people show up the first couple of weeks, and then then we had nobody, but then everybody started coming back, and it just became obviously something that we did for 4 years. So I very much appreciate y'all being here. I think it was the best way, the fairest way for us to provide this. As Casey says when she talks about it, she says the mayor answers all the questions, tries not to duck any questions, just answers them and allows y'all to have as much time as you want. So I have appreciated my time with you, and I've always tried to be here and answer the questions as fairly and honestly as we can. And some of you ask much more direct questions that need answers, and sometimes we get people that want to ask leading ones, but we've always tried to give you the answers we see it in the best way that we can do it. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'll be happy to stay here as long as y'all want me to, or leave as quickly as you want me to.
It's not a question. I just want to say, as a journalist that's covered a lot of different states in my career, I'm not that resident. I don't know you well to know the whole 4 years in fair, but I know a good spirit, and you have been so transparent in these last 6 weeks that I've been able to cover for WEAR, and I'm sorry to see you go. I do hope that you've set the bar high for DCP, so looking forward to seeing what he'll do, because you've done a lot, and I was grateful to just cover you the little bit I did.
I appreciate that very much. I thank you. We certainly have tried to be there as openly as we can, and deal with those things as we can. And I know sometimes not everything comes up on a Monday. We certainly try to follow up as much as we can, but we certainly hope, and y'all have been good. Channel 3 has been very good. WEAR has been very good about being consistent and being here, and appreciate y'all being here.
Thanks.
Jim.
Yeah, Mayor, you kind of just gave a kind of a reflection of the last 4 years as mayor, but you're also, I guess, ending a 16-year service in public service. I guess any thoughts on that of your whole elected career as far as
I've spent all 16 years of my elected life in local government because I believe two things I believe in. One, I certainly believe in this community and Northwest Florida and Escambia County and the City of Pensacola. For me, looking back on it, it's kind of funny because when I first went to the county, there was kind of a lot of suspicion of me because, I mean, for the most part, my family have been very active here in the city. But I went there because I believed Escambia County is very important to the City of Pensacola, and I enjoyed my time there. It was kind of interesting that I came over here, and it was very much I was looked at as I was kind of the county person. But one way or the other, I've always been about local government, and I say that both because of the love I have for this community, the people here. Like I say all the time, my kids are 8th generation Pensacolians, so we love this community, Escambia County. I also have a lot of family across the river in Santa Rosa County, so I know about that little rivalry, and have tried to do whatever I can to bring those two together and work in tandem, because I really think for the Northwest Florida to work, we've all got to work together. So as I look back on 16 years, I think that's one of the things I hope I accomplished is trying to really think of. I think when I first came in, one of the things that really upset me was the way we were so parochial and jurisdictional within ourselves, within our counties, within our other parts. I hope in my 16 years in Escambia County and the City of Pensacola, we built better relationships across those entities to work better for the area. I certainly know the accomplishments we made by working together as 8 counties, what we were able to achieve and restore and really move the bar for Northwest Florida. As I've said many times, I'm very happy if Panama City gets something. In fact, we even when I was here as a mayor, I was very much active my first year going to Tallahassee, very supportive of the work that was being done to create a watershed and estuary plans for Okaloosa, for Choctawhatchee Bay, and for St. Andrews Bay, because it didn't bother me. I mean, those parts are our region. If Panama City does well, if Destin or Fort Walton or anywhere else, if they do well, we do well. If Mobile does well, we do well. My thing is we as the North Gulf Coast, we have to think of ourselves a little bit bigger than just Pensacola. I mean, certainly most of the things we do on a day-to-day basis are within this jurisdiction, but we also need to think bigger, because for Pensacola to be as successful as it needs to be, we need the entire region to be successful. And that's the whole northern Gulf Coast. And that includes part of Alabama, includes areas east of here. So I worked very hard to build regional relationships and really help our whole region grow, and I think that's important. I probably look at, there's probably no better accomplishment. My biggest accomplishment in my own eyes was dealing with Restore while I was at the county. And I think what we were able to do with that and the dividends, and there's some things that I think the city has tremendous opportunity to benefit and continue to do stuff with its projects with Carpenter's Creek and with Hollis T. Williams Stormwater Park. I think those are things that we can continue to benefit from. But I think probably helping to bring $75 million back to Northwest Florida was probably one of the greatest accomplishments I had in dealing with the oil spill. I did not realize it was really all it was doing was teaching me how to deal with bigger adversities like pandemic that were going to be coming in the future. If I'd known that, I might have stopped at the oil spill. I might not have taken on pandemic, but again, it is what it is. And I mean, I would have liked. There are so many things I would have liked to have done. There's so many things that we're leaving that we're just starting. But the reason we didn't finish them is because we really had about 2 normal years and about 2 years that were really dealing with the pandemic. So, I think if we'd had more normal years, we could have gotten more stuff done that we've got on the table. But again, you don't control what life gives you. You have to deal with what you get, and I'm very proud of the progress we've made. But I'm really proud of the progress we made, seeing that we really focused dealing with an adversity and really able to bring Pensacola still at a high point through that adversity. So, I'm very happy about the 16 years of service that I've had. I think we've moved our region forward during that time. I hope we've learned to work together better. I think we're going to have more success. I think it proofs in the pudding on what's happened. As Quint's very deliberate in saying, with the baseball team over there, there's a little you can do to make them successful and win a championship. But every now and then, if you put the ingredients together, those things will fall. And while we don't necessarily create all that stuff, I think the atmosphere that we create by doing things like working hard, and we had to fire one hockey group and then hire another hockey group, and now we've had 4 or 5 titles, and now we've had a title in football while we were there, and we've had a baseball title, and while so much more goes into that than what we did. If we hadn't have done the things we did, if we hadn't have focused on continuing to keep baseball here for another 10 years, if there were lots of other things we hadn't done, we wouldn't be reaping the benefits of those things. So again, all those success stories, ultimately, they start with a lot of hard work. I say all the time, local government is it's a blocking and tackling. It's not sexy. It's your offense and defensive line. And but if you don't have you will not find a championship team that doesn't have a good offensive line, that doesn't have a good defensive line. You got to win in the trenches to win, and it's not sexy, but you can't win without it, and that's really the whole idea of teamwork. And I hope, my biggest concern in leaving is I'm very discouraged in some ways what we see on a national. Just some of the challenges that we're dealing with our country is nationally. But I hope, at least in our little corner of the world in Northwest Florida, we've learned to work together better and create better teamwork. And if we do that, our region's going to continue to be successful. And I think our local governments, there's no reason that even despite all this animosity and things happening at the national level, there's no reason we can't be successful at the local level. And local government can't be successful at doing what it needs to do. And I've tried to do that for 16 years, Jim. I've tried to live in a very fair system that acknowledges we're all here together and we all got to win and we all got to work together to get there. And I think we've come through a lot of success. I think when you you stop worrying about those kind of things and you work together, you can do great things. And I think we've done that. Whether it was at the county or at the city, I think we've been able to do that. So that's my thought process of what's happened in 16 years.
I had a follow-up question, I guess, kind of on that. Is 2006, when you ran the first time, very different world than today? I guess, do you think there's challenges for somebody wanting to run in local office?
Yeah, I think politics is a little bit. It's easier and harder in some ways. Things like social media and the internet make it a little bit easier for you than if you had to establish name ID. It does give you some places, but it really waters down a lot of stuff and makes it challenging in some ways. So there are difficulties there. You're right. I mean, there was no real social media in 2006 when I ran. But a lot of the things are consistent today, and the people who were successful, DC was successful because he built a good message and then was able to do it and convey it the way he needed to convey. I mean, I think that part of campaigning is consistent from 2006 to 2022. The ways you do it are a little bit different, but it's always changing. Technology is always changing. As a part of that, and you got to keep up with it. And like I said before, I'm happy to see. I'm happy to see when we have elected leadership that's in their 30s and 40s, and that's what I said. I said, I think it's good to see. The elected mayors, the strong mayors we've had, have all been elected, in their 30s and 40s, and I think sometimes it's good to have that youth in there and to have that involvement and energy, I think are good things. But again, from that standpoint, there are challenges that are a little bit different in 2006. But I think the biggest thing that's different in 2006 is where we are as a community and the perception of Escambia County, Northwest Florida. In 2006, people saw us as a backward area that was not a very good place for investment. We were actually losing citizens, and we were not a good place to live and move to. When I look at 2022, it's flipped. All of a sudden, we have good people, good leaders. We have not only leadership politically, but we have leadership in business and other things. We have success, and we are seeing those things, those championships that we weren't seeing before. I think people see Northwest Florida as different. I think they see it as actually something that is a place worth coming to and being a part of, and that's why we see so many people that want to come here and be a part of the success that is here. And many of us that have lived here for generations have known that potential was always there. We, even in 2006, I don't think we were there. I don't think we were nearly where we are today. So, I feel very good that my 16 years that Pensacola, Escambia County, and Northwest Florida is a much more desired place than it was when I started. Again, when I started, I tell people all the time, if I went to an ethics seminar, usually it was Escambia County that was the example. Now if I go to a League of Cities or something else, we're usually there giving an example of things that we've started that people wouldn't do. We're one of the few places that's gone in there, seeing Ted back there. We're one of the few public sector areas that are focusing on employee engagement and what we can do. We are at the cutting edge of things in the public sector, whereas 16 years ago we were the joke of the public sector. So I think those are some things, Jim, that we've done differently and where we find ourselves today versus where we were 16 years ago.
You're stepping out of office next week. Any thoughts about running for another office in the future?
I told y'all about a year, almost 2 years ago. I told you that I was done with elected office. That was. I'm not done with opportunities to do public service, and I am interested in continuing to be interested in working in any way I can to create a better place for this community. And if that's working and partnering with a public entity, those are certainly things. I think I have something lined up. It's not for about 10 more months from now, and I'll let my future employer, discuss that since it's so long into the future. But I am still looking at what I can do in the short term, because that's a long time to sit idle. So I don't think I can do that. But if there are opportunities for me to help and serve in that interim, I'm happy to help and serve in the interim any way I can to make the city better. But I think I've enjoyed my last elected leadership and campaign. It's kind of funny. I've talked to a few people that were involved in this most recent campaign and just talked to them about, both some people that have won and both some people who have not won. And certainly what they generally say is, this is a whole lot more than I ever thought it was going to be. It was significant going through it. And I say the world would be a better place if everybody ran for elected office. I think you learn a lot, and you learn a lot how to be patient. I probably watched a lot of football this weekend, and I probably thought I would do things differently, but it's different when you're there. And so I think everybody watches political leadership and thinks it's pretty easy from when you're not here. But I tell people all the time the real thing about either being up here on the podium or being on that corner office in the 7th floor is sometimes how lonely it is. People have asked me a lot, what do you like? What do you miss? I'm going to miss the hell out of working with all these people. You got a bunch of people who do an incredible job, and if I could work with them and be with them all the time, I would do that. But when you're behind this podium or you're up in that corner office, it can be really lonely because ultimately you're the one that's got to make those decisions and make those calls. And I'm not saying we made every one of them right, but I am saying we made every one of them with the best that we thought was going to happen for the community at the time we thought it. And that's all you can do. All you can do is try your hardest and give your best effort and do what you think is right. But you know, I'm going to miss. I'm definitely going to miss all the people here. And if I could sit here and work with people here, I would stay here until they put me in a pine box. But you know, that's the stuff I'll miss, and I want to be involved still in helping the community do better. I just don't know that I necessarily want to do elected office. I've done it. You know, I've done it. It's been good. And I'm ready to move on and do something else. But I've never said I would not serve the community in some capacity. And if those places and I can take my experience and help our community, then I'm more than happy to do that. Yes, John.
Mayor, I'd like to pile on to the colleague over here who said that she appreciates your openness and willingness to talk. I would also add transparency to, you know, your pluses of your time and service. I've covered a lot of local and other governments, been involved in it. This may be the most transparent I've ever seen, and the lesson is always how that lifts the community up, because it dispels rumors and fear, and it gives people more confidence in their local government. So thank you for meeting with us and taking all the questions, the good with the bad.
Well, thank you. And I mean, it goes a long way. It goes a long way with having trust in those that cover you. And I say this to all of you. I mean, obviously, people like yourself, John and Jim, we have a long history here. You know, I certainly appreciate y'all's ability and what you've done here. There are some times where I've differed in sometimes how I thought things were categorized, and I've tried to share that, but I've never necessarily tried to do, you know, I've tried to respect your job to tell the story and what that story was. I just felt sometimes, you know, we weren't. I wanted to stay focused on sort of also what was the truth. I mean, obviously the thing we had with Carpenter's Creek, I kept trying to point out, and eventually it came right in this room here. Exactly everything we had been saying, what we had been trying to do, and what we've been trying to do for 6 months. And I think we were actually, I was told from Matt Posner, we were successful in obtaining the funding for that portion of the planning to put together the scope of work and plan for the improvements to Carpenter's Creek from Davis Highway to Brent. We were successful in obtaining that. I just heard that from Matt Posner last week. So now, you know, now comes getting that plan up and then going and getting the money for that. So, you know, I mean, again, these are all things we've tried to do, and for the most part, I very much appreciate the way y'all have covered us and what you've done. There have been sometimes, you know, we've had some differences, and if I didn't explain things well enough, then that's on me. And I've tried to call y'all and talk to you and explain, you know, what we were doing and what was going on. But overall, you know, those are just some of the things that we've tried to do. So I very much appreciate all of you that have covered the city, and you know, I've enjoyed working with you. I will say that just because we've been the only, this is what Casey knows from just because we're the only one that's doing this doesn't mean we're the only organization who can do things. We really have to work at getting everybody to work together. And while the city has been willing to have these discussions, the city doesn't control everything in the area. And you know, if we're going to things like homelessness, things like dealing with you know, the stuff that we're dealing with and trying to make sure we have clean water and our estuaries and our, you know, our stormwater. These are things that are not simply, the city cannot control these things by itself. We need partners to work with us. And if you're not happy that somebody else isn't engaging, well, you can't blame the city necessarily for. I mean, we're engaged. We'd love for the other partners to become engaged. And you know, if the media wants to go to them and say, "Why aren't you engaged?" we wouldn't have a problem with that necessarily, but we can't do all of their engagement. I do think we've tried to bring along. I think we may have been less successful in getting the county to pick up some things with the homelessness, but we have been successful in getting ECUA on board with working with us. And I think sometimes it gets lost in the translation. We can't clean up all the stuff that's out here, but and I credit Bruce Woody 100% for this. Bruce was, from the time we started the stuff talking about Bruce Beach, we said we really need you to work with us. And again, we have found things, they have solved things, and I'm not saying that's all of it. We're going to keep looking. I think we started back, David, last week doing some more testing. I haven't heard anything necessarily what's come back out of that, but from that standpoint, we're going to keep looking for what we can do in ways that we can improve environmental health. And I very much appreciate ECUA's support in working with us on that front.
I got a follow-up there.
Yes.
One of the things that, by all accounts, the facts, public safety has been a bright spot during your tour here. That's why it was surprising, I think, to us and to others when one of the city council candidates raised public safety as a campaign issue, and that seemed to be echoed by a number of fairly prominent supporters. And this is south of Cervantes, pretty much. What's your message to the community and to the audience about public safety, particularly in this rapidly growing downtown area?
Well, I think there are always challenges. I think our team is an amazing group when I look at PPD and what they're able to do. And some of that is also what we've built there and some of the things they've gone through and they've worked through. Not all of it is necessarily readily noticeable at the surface, but there's been a lot of work. I mean, I would say one of those things that while he's sitting here is Councilman Wiggins is here. I mean, Councilman Wiggins came in, first thing he said was he came to me and talked about this idea of a gun buyback, which I know a lot of people got all, and I said, this is not, we're not going to take all the guns off. That's not what this purpose is. But the purpose is the neighborhood is telling us this is something they want. And when we did that, what they said was, I mean, we bought what we could out of that. We exhausted our money. But what they said was, okay, we believe you're serious about our lives and helping us. And it wasn't about all the other things. We weren't going to end guns. It was not any of the other stuff we were looking to do. We were simply looking to communicate with that neighborhood. And I think it bought us credibility in that neighborhood. And, again, I know Councilman Wiggins got hate mail from all across the United States, but he was strong enough to stand in what he thought was right for his community, and it worked. And in many ways, it built better confidence for what we had with the community. So I think a lot of things that are happening are doing it. And I think our team does an amazing job. With that said, this is a free country. We allow you to do a lot of things. Part of that freedom is we expect you to respect your rights and responsibilities within that. But to an extent, there are simply times people can take advantage of our freedom and misuse it. I think we saw that happen with a Saudi national on NAS base. And I'm not saying it can't happen here. We try to protect it, so it's as much as you can do, but it is a constant balance. It's a constant balance between what you do. All of a sudden now, I don't know if you noticed we use vehicles and all kind of stuff up there on the hill coming down Palafox when we have a parade. We didn't used to have to do that. Now we got to think about these things. We used to just put barricades out and think, okay, that's enough. But now we don't know. But I mean, that's why public safety is an ever-changing thing. And typically what happens is people take advantage of the things that you naturally have in a free society. So I think for all of us, we're a little wary. Anything can happen, but we try to do those things. Likewise, I'd say, talking about 16 years. 16 years of service, I spent an awful lot of time, even as far back as last week, tracking hurricanes and not sure what may happen. Thank goodness the whole 16 years I was there, we only had one hurricane, Sally. But it doesn't mean you don't spend every day doing the stuff you need to. Thank goodness for Jenny Craner and her team, what they do for us in public safety in just taking care of storms and weather. those are things that are part of that same part of public safety. I put our public safety, John, up against anybody's. I think our teams are as good as any team, but the teams can only do so much. It's very much dependent upon having neighborhoods and people who are engaged. Will also tell us if there are any threats and come to us and feel with confidence that we will address those threats and do that. And so all of it's there. And again, if you come back to hurricanes, I'll say this much. Cities should never declare state of emergencies before counties. It's not the way the system is. But if you go back to Hurricane Sally, the City of Pensacola was the first one to declare an emergency. We believed it was that serious. Should have been declared the day before, but that's a different part. But we were always going to do what we needed to do to make sure the safety of our citizens is at the forefront, and that's what we tried to do for 4 years. And whether I'm here, gone, whatever, I expect the men and women who are involved in the City of Pensacola's public safety to do the same thing. I can assure you my home is in the city, so I will be depending on them for public safety. So, yes, John, this is...
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to take over the podium for a second if you
Okay.
were done, but
Okay.
I'll just finish.
One more comment. You can handle it as you normally would, Mayor. The story about pickleball at the port was, we look at this every day, but it was the biggest story that we published in the last 3 months in terms of people in the Western Panhandle reacting to that story almost universally positive. What does this tell you? I mean, not what we did, but this idea about pickleball and the port's use, and what does that mean to the future of the city?
I think, as I've said before, public safety, I think, is the number one reason people want to be in the city. Parks and recreation is number two. I think when you talk about amenities and what's there, people want to see cities embracing new things. Pickleball is one of those things nationally that's going all over. So I think people are wanting to do that. It just so happened we were able to kill two birds with one stone. We wanted interaction and vibrancy, and we wanted with the port, and it just so happened that we were able to do two things at once. Sometimes you luck into those circumstances and you find ways to do it. But, I'm a big believer you create your own luck. So when you're out there working hard, things are going to turn more positive for you. You have the opportunity to make those things happen. Some of those things are beyond our control, and they just fell into place at the right time. But they fell into place at the right time because we were always looking for what could be best for our citizens. And I think I take that away from, whatever you want to say about what's happened in the last 4 years. Every decision we made was always based on what creates the best opportunity for our citizens, and we've done some fairly unconventional things. It's easy to say I've grown up mostly in a traditional family, and we've thought about traditions. But I can tell you the staff knows one thing. I've always told them, I've said, don't ever come to me and say this is the way we've always done it, because that's not. We're going to do it because it's the right thing to do, and it doesn't matter if we've always done it one way or not. We've never been afraid to do something because it wasn't the right thing to do. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna stop on that. If there are any other questions, and I'm not gonna stop. It's just this is the first time we've probably gone over an hour, I think, since I very first started this. But thank you for allowing me the opportunity to ramble for almost an hour here and talk about some things. It certainly has been a lot to me and my family to spend the last 4 years. I think we've done great things for the city of Pensacola, but I'll let y'all write about that or put that on TV or something else. I'm content with what we did while I was here. I told this to the youth council. The most important thing that you have, the most vital commodity that you have is time. You only have so much time. And any position you take, it's not going to last forever. But the question that will always be asked, what did you do with the time you were given? And I feel very good about the 4 years I was given. We did a lot of stuff. And we did a lot of stuff for 4 years, considering we lost 2 years to COVID. So I'm content with what we did, and I'm happy with what we did, and I still want to be involved in public service. I just don't necessarily want to be in elected office. So that's my story.
Oh, Thank you for allowing me to take over. I just kind of wanted to echo some of the things that the mayor said from a public information and transparency perspective. I know I shared some of this with the Leadership Pensacola class the other day, so I wanted the opportunity to share it with you. As someone who's a former journalist and coming into the public information world, working in government public relations for going on 7 years now, which is kind of crazy, but yeah, 6.5 years. I've been here with the mayor for about 3.5, so almost since the beginning. And I can truly say, I'm not just saying this because he's standing here, I've never worked for an elected official who's more transparent and committed to being accessible to the media and to the public than he has been, which is something that I truly value as a former journalist and again now working in the public information field. So thank you, Mayor, for that. Even during the tough times when things could be a little bit more challenging, or he always answered the hard questions, and as he mentioned, and I don't want this to just be coming from him, because this is something that I have said, that and I think you guys would agree, that he has never cut anybody off. When he stands up here, it's always, any more questions, any more questions. He has always stood up here and answered every last question, even if we go for more than an hour, even if they're hard questions. So I really value that. And then, as he mentioned, during the challenging times with COVID, we had a cyber attack, we had a terrorist attack on base during civil unrest after George Floyd. He stood up here and answered the hard questions. We even continued our press conference virtually for a while during COVID, when he easily could have said, let's just take a break for a while. So I appreciate that and value that, and I just wanted to echo some of the things that he had said, so that it's not just him saying it, but I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that that Mayor Robinson has been incredibly transparent and accessible, and I personally appreciate it, and I think we all appreciate it. So thank you.
Well, I certainly didn't ask for that, much like at LEAP. She did say that. I will say the best part also at LEAP, and I didn't say this for Laura Major too. I told them, I said they both obviously didn't make enough money here at the city, but Laura titled her chance for me to speak, Leadership, the difference between the city and the county. And I think she was wanting me to talk about leadership between the city and the county, but the way it looked like that was it. But anyways, as I said, most of what I've gotten to do, I have stood up here, but most of what I've gotten to do is work with 800 incredible men and women, and I appreciate what Casey said. But I'm truly the one that was blessed, because I got to work with great people like Casey and David and Amy and Kareth and Ted and the people I see here, but also people like Chris Holly and Keith Wilkins. Just a number of great people that I've had the chance to work with here. We brought people in to different parts. Kareth, who had never been in Northwest Florida, we brought people in. We brought some people in from different places. We didn't care about necessarily what people may have thought about where they were. Were they too young? I mean, when I look at David, when I look at Casey, we invested in people because we believed they were the right people for this community and helped us move forward. And at the end of the day, I couldn't be more proud of the team that we have put together. But that also goes for, we've got a lot of people here at the city. I see Sherry in the back, who I've worked with back when she was just starting her career at the city, and I was on the planning board. But now she runs our whole development services arms, because there were very talented people here at the city that we were able to bring forward as well and give them new challenges and new opportunities. So we've been incredibly fortunate. I've been incredibly fortunate to work with people who are such good people, and they're all here working for your city. So very proud of the team we've put together. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. Like I said, I'll be here next week, but I'm really going to turn it over to DC, and you can ask him all the hard questions now. Thank you very much for the time that I've had to have with all of y'all, and I certainly wish you the best. I think the best days for Pensacola are in the future, and I'm very excited about that.